Welcome to iPad Pros, the show all about using your iPad to be productive and get work done. I'm Tim Chen, host of the show.
It's also, you register with things with Apple Business Manager, and then the device actually gets linked to Apple. So when you buy it, it's linked to that particular company. So if the device would happen to disappear somewhere, back in the old days, okay, I guess it's gone. Well, no, it's a brick. It's a brick because you can't use it because it's registered specifically to a company.
Welcome back to another episode of iPad Pros. I'm joined this episode by David Ginsburg of the In Touch with iOS podcast. His day job is in IT, and we discuss the role of the iPad in corporations and the difference between the OS upgrade cycle for Apple devices versus the approach on the Windows side of things. We also discuss the role of the iPad in his personal life. I just want to remind everyone that you can now financially support iPad Pros in two different places. First off, patreon.com/iPadPros. Get episodes early and with embedded MP3 chapter markers by supporting the podcast at any tier. Bonus content is also available at the higher tiers. You can also now subscribe to iPad Pros in Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts is an all-inclusive single subscription, so you'll get all of the bonus content plus episodes early by subscribing to the show in Apple Podcasts. By default, subscriptions are monthly, but if you go into your subscription settings in the Settings app, you can switch it to a yearly plan. My thanks to everyone that currently or has in the past supported the podcast financially. This podcast is not a quick one to produce, and your support is greatly, greatly appreciated. You can also support the podcast for free simply by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts. No matter your region, it really does help. The reviews help send the right signals to Apple to show this podcast more in search, helping others discover the show. If you have a minute today, I'd really appreciate you opening up the podcast app and leaving a review. My thanks to everyone that has already done that. With that, here's my discussion with David. Enjoy. Welcome to the podcast, David.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much for being here. Can you first kind of introduce yourself and how you use the iPad today?
Well, my name is David Ginsburg. I've been an IT professional for almost 24 years here now. Been doing a podcast for the last 5 or 6 or so. In touch with iOS, and we'll talk about that obviously later. So as far as how I use my iPad, I do some audio editing, some with my podcast, and a lot with work. I'm an IT professional, so working with the support and doing a lot of that kind of stuff. Got experience working with JAMF and managing devices, as well as using Microsoft with Intune and managing those devices as well. But a lot of it, like audio editing, video editing, but personal consumption, of course, as well. We all watch our Netflix and videos and such. But I have been using. I've pretty much owned an iPad since its inception. What now? Gosh, 12 years ago now.
Yeah,
2010. So I owned the very first iPad and have owned one ever since.
What's your current setup these days?
I have the iPad Pro 11. I'm pretty partial to the smaller iPad. When the iPad Pro 12.9 inch first came out, and I did a presentation about it, as I mentioned to you, and I speak at MacStock, the MacStock conference. I had a 12.9 inch, the first gen, which I still actually have, and I was always sticking with that time it was the 9.7 inch or the 10 inch display. So I recently upgraded to the 2021 M1 iPad, which is amazing. The performance is just pretty incredible. But that's pretty much what I've been using for the last, like I said, since the iPad came out. So
nice. And do you have the Magic Keyboard and pencil with it, or do you use?
I do. Yep.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I've got the Magic Pencil. I got the Magic Keyboard. I like that. I like that keyboard, and I've had other keyboards in the past and cases. I kind of go between cases and keyboards. Right now I use I forget the name of this keyboard. The Zug, the Zug case.
Okay.
ZUGU, and I've really liked those cases the last few years, and so I kind of toggle between. When I'm not in the mood to having a keyboard, and I only travel with, I really need the keyboard. I have that, and then when I have the the Magic Keyboard I need, I pop it right into that, and then it's a really good keyboard. Takes a little getting used to, of course, as it is a little slightly smaller than you're used to when I use a Mac. So
yeah. In the Zug case, is it for protection, or does it have some kind of cool stand kind of component to make it easier for some of the tasks you like to do with the iPad?
It makes it easier because it does have like a magnetic and little notches in the front of the cover, and then the nice thing also is the pencil has its own holder inside, which also doubles as a charging method too.
Yeah.
Whereas the Magic Keyboard, I get really nervous because I'm putting it in my bag, and of course the pencil's sitting by itself, pretty much magnetically attached to the iPad. Very easy for it to be detached. And
yeah, I lost a pencil once for 3 or 4 days and had a second one. I now own 2 pencils, long story short, because I thought it was gone for good. And showed up in my car. And yeah.
Oh, isn't that a bugger? I would be unhappy with that too.
Yeah. So I've learned that lesson and are more safe about where I keep it versus just magnetically all the time.
Yeah, and that's kind of my workflow is majority of the time I'm keeping it in the Zug case just because of the pencil. Yeah. I always like to have the pencil with me. But when I'm in a workflow where I need to have a keyboard and would rather be using the keyboard, I carry them both with me. So and I can just switch, very easily switch them out.
So iPad, 12 years old, as you said. Did you ever think we'd see a trackpad, and how has that changed things for your experience with iPadOS?
I mean, I've seen iOS, now iPadOS evolve over the years, and I thought I would never see it, and I knew there would be a lot of hacks. I mean, if you remember, you had to go into accessibility to even get a mouse to work.
Yeah,
and it was like, I think it was iOS 11 or iOS 12. I can't remember which version of which version of the OS was. But this was cool, and I did demonstrations on it and talking about it on my podcast and say, hey, look at this. You can use a mouse and you can use the Magic Touchpad and it will work as a mouse, but you got to dig deep here into the accessibility. But now it's a native thing. Takes it just if you want to use an external touchpad, you can easily do it with Bluetooth and of course, Magic Keyboard, it's magic. You just plug it in, it works. So, it is nice. I mean, not everybody. It's not for everybody. I know not everybody's too overly excited about having a touchpad or a mouse, and because people are so used to touching,
that's kind of another option, right? Yeah.
Kind of the debate, between a Mac and an iPad. Is iOS or iPadOS any better with that support versus Mac OS?
Yeah.
So that's really a kind of think about that in the sense of, okay, is it going to be for you? I said it's not for everybody. Nice thing is there's all kinds of different options out there if you do want a touchpad, and that's one of the other things a lot of people are trying to do these days. They want to make this their full-time device, and then we're starting. And when I did a presentation back in 2016, so we're going back 5 years now, 6 years, and boy, a lot's changed.
Yes, it has.
So since that time, when at that time I was kind of on the fence. I'm still a Mac user too. I mean, I have to. Just it's hard not to be. And also being IT professional as I am, I work with Macs as well as PCs, so I still have to be in that world. But so it's really something that where is it gone? With having the support with touchpads and being is it going to be your full-time device? I was a little skeptical when I did the presentation many years ago, but I think we're getting pretty close here now, and we're seeing I'm seeing a lot of companies, like executives who normally would be the type of person who want to carry just a really lightweight laptop, mostly PCs, but sometimes Macs. But I'm seeing these days they don't even want to do that, especially if they're senior executives of a company. That they would rather have an iPad because it's just so much easier to work with and have a nice portable device. So
yeah, and as an IT professional, I'd imagine the trackpad would just be wonderful just for using VNC apps, so you could use Windows or Mac in a more native way with that trackpad.
Yeah, absolutely. And The nice thing is now there's just so much more support in the remote world because, yeah, you're right, because that some companies may even give them options. Okay, we got a VM set up for that particular person, so they can VM into a machine if they have to approve something or if they have to go in and do something that Windows does that iPadOS won't do, which these days it's getting more rare that you really don't need it. It really depends on a company and how they provide security too. So the iPad is going to be a lot different, but now with the advent of VPN and a lot of other security methods, it's getting better.
So your day job as principal information specialist, what does that day-to-day look like at the job?
Yeah, I work for an insurance company, so it's a global insurance company locally in the Chicago area is where I work. Companies actually based out in the East Coast, by where you are. Mm-hmm. My day-to-day is a multitude of things. I do IT support. I do purchasing. I do all kinds of stuff. And I'm on our Mac support team because we're looking to build Macs, and I'm supporting iOS devices, iPadOS devices. So I'm kind of a jack of all trades, as you could say. Doing training. I do a lot of. I've done lots of training in the past. I've done training classes specifically on iPads. I've done specifically on iPhone. I've done a lot of that stuff. So it's pretty cool that my job is giving me the opportunity to do all kinds of stuff and just kind of lets me be immersed into technology, which I love.
Nice. Yeah. Has the new Windows rollout happened, or is it kind of?
Oh gosh, process? No. Okay. Oh my gosh. And I think I can tell you that most companies are that way these days. Windows 10 is fine.
Yeah.
There's really no reason and no rhyme or reason unless that the hardware really forces you that you have to upgrade to Windows 11. Oh no, we're not going to be. I can't imagine being anywhere near that for quite a long time.
Yeah.
I say most companies are like that too. And in my experience,
Yeah, they're it's a work machine. They want to be safe.
I mean, my experience, I go back all the way to Windows XP, so that's a long time to be sporting OSs. And there were times that XP was. I think there's XP machines still out there.
Oh,
sadly,
I'm sure they are. Yeah.
Sadly, I know there is for a fact. So I've seen it evolve with Windows is horrible. I'm not saying that Mac OS was any perfect. So
now, does Mac support? Is that also a pretty slow process?
As far as
OS upgrades
supporting, no. That's a good question. In my experience, just seeing how Mac OS works, companies come into play and looking at the fact that, okay, do you want to upgrade your OS? A lot of times you have to, and a lot of times, as you know, how Apple does it with Macs is you buy the machine, you get the OS that comes with it. You can't, you're buying machines now, they're M1s, M1 Pros and whatnot. Those are all either coming with Big Sur or Monterey, and Monterey is going to be the most current models. So, whereas Windows, IT professionals always had the flexibility to be able to, okay, I need to downgrade. We're still using Windows 8, God forbid, but I think Windows 10 is going to be. I mean, I know Microsoft is going to be continuing to use to support Windows 10 for at least another 4 years. So
yeah, okay. And imagine iPad and if you have work phones, and imagine they keep those up to date as well. Windows seems to be the one that just how that world works, where it stays behind.
See, the thing is, it's different in the mobile device world. Where with iPads, iPads do have iPadOS, and they tend to be upgraded pretty quickly. And a lot of the reason is because it's a BYOD, it's a bring your own device. A lot of companies still do that. Whereas it's your device, so you control what gets installed.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a company-owned device, that's a different story. That's managed with a mobile device manager a software such as JAMF that would manage the iPads in such a way that that's made sure that it's in compliance, it's secure. It may require VPN. It may require a lot of security, but it also requires that the OS gets updated more frequently and probably pretty much right away because as Apple works, as you know, I just talked about this last week. Apple, I had thought let iOS 14 still continue to run on a device and iPadOS 14, but they were kind of being a little sneaky about it this time. They said, "Oh no, we were just telling you want to install iOS 15, but." Because if you looked at the device, if you looked at the update, if you recall,
when 15 rolled out, it was
down at the bottom there. It said,
upgrades.
"Oh, by the way,
they waited was it 6 months or when did I guess September?
It was
so less than 6.
It was September, yeah. So it was by probably 4 or 5 months, and all of a sudden, there's been news stories about the fact, oh no, Apple said after 14.8.1, that's it. We're not releasing any more security updates, but funny they said that because
it's fine. It seems like this is super stable at this point in its OS and time to upgrade.
Yeah. And funny they say that because they still have lots of old devices out there that are running iOS 12 and iOS 11, but they're still updated
for those.
And they're still releasing security updates for at least iOS 12.
Yeah.
So as far as OSs go, I think in my experience, iOS and iPadOS will get updated a lot quicker than Mac OS and, of course, Windows.
Yeah. So at your day job, is this remote or in person at this point? And if it's in person, I'd imagine the iPad might play a bigger role as you're moving around the office and needing a smaller device to tout around.
It obviously pre-COVID it was in person all the time. Yep. So post-COVID it's a mix right now. A lot of what I do I would have to be in the office in order to do it because you need to have access to network resources, and I'm not going to be taking up my bandwidth at home to be doing things that need to be done.
Yeah.
As far as an iPad goes, I would use it just around the office when needed, and I could use it to remote into the devices when needed if a user's having an issue. Again, because I'm supporting a majority of Windows users, I don't have as much involvement with that. We do have a mix of iPad users, but it isn't a large audience at this point. Enough that we need my skill set to help support it. And I think that's pretty standard across a lot of companies. The fact that iPads are only are kind of a secondary device at this point in the enterprise, but I wouldn't be surprised there are some companies out there that do have a good army of iPads.
Yeah, if you just look at the price to get into iPad versus if you're Apple company and you have either Macs or iPads, if that's your decision, iPad is so much cheaper to get into from a portable perspective if you're into portables.
Oh, for sure. But surprisingly enough, you have large companies out there, and I only know this only because I work with JAMF products, is the fact that you have a company like IBM who unheard of. Why would you ever think, you think IBM and Windows?
Yeah.
They have over 150,000 employees use Macs in their environment as well as iOS devices. So you have a company like Walmart does the same thing. You have a company like SAP. You have a company like Starbucks. They're all using Apple devices as their primary devices, whether it be a Mac or an iPad for that matter. So you're definitely seeing more and more devices out there that are being used. And Mac is, I know this is more of a focus of iPad, but Mac is out there, is getting up there with the enterprise, and it always was kind of a very laughable thing. But no, it's really become a lot more serious,
and
regardless if it's a Mac.
Employee satisfaction as
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, you hit the nail right on the head there, because the fact that the iPad and the Mac, for that matter, is needed to is the fact that a user would prefer it. If they give them a choice, we're gonna let you have a choice between a Windows or a Mac or an iPad for that matter. You know what they're gonna pick. So,
yeah. Any apps that you do find handy while at work, like any favorite VNC apps or other apps that are helpful there?
I do use it's called Beyond Trust now, BombGuard, which is the tool that's used for remote support. That's a subscription product that a lot of companies pay for. It's a pretty amazing support tool. It allows you to be able to remote into basically any device that's on, whether it be on VPN or not, or on the network, and allows you to be able to get in there and do what you had to do to fix the user's problem. Microsoft Remote Desktop I've used a fair amount of times where I can remote into a desktop, whether I have a laptop maybe sitting on my desk or if I have another Windows device that I would have to do in there to do that. But yeah, that pretty much is a lot of the key apps that I use quite a bit when it comes to just IT support type of stuff.
Okay. And what's the kind of current state of iPad device management with tools like MDM Open?
Current state is really good, and I keep mentioning JAMF because JAMF's one of the biggest MDMs out there, and JAMF Pro is the product that a lot of big companies utilize their tools and not only managing of Macs but as iOS devices too. I think if anything, it's going to continue to evolve even more. Microsoft has their own tools as well, nowhere near as efficient, in my opinion, than something like a JAMF product. And there's others out there, but that's what I'm familiar with. That really makes it so much easier to be able to access, manage the access to that. So So if anything, it does happen with a product with a device. Easy to wipe it, easy to install whatever you need to installed. We know what's on the device. We know we can find it. It's also you register with things with Apple Business Manager, and then the device actually gets linked to Apple. So when you buy it, it's linked to that particular company. So if the device would happen to disappear somewhere, back in the old days, okay, I guess it's gone. Well, no, it's a brick. It's a brick because you can't use it because it's registered specifically to a company.
That's cool. And I know with education, there's the ability to create user accounts. Does that exist with stuff like JAMF?
Yes. I mean, creating the actual user account, you mean?
Like the ability for one iPad to have multiple users log into it if you're at a business and you have a shared iPad. Is that a thing, or is that just education only?
I think education does it because, and more so not logging into it, you're talking about the fact of being able to actually log into the device and be signed in as that person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen education. I have family members that are actually teachers that use the devices, and JAMF is a tool that's used as well. I don't know. I'm not super familiar if there is a way of having multiple users on that. It's because it is a managed device.
Yeah.
It's a centralized device that someone can just use, and it doesn't really matter. Unlike a Mac where you sign into multiple profiles.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. And then any other iPad related work tasks worth diving into before we move on?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. As far as what I've done, most of the stuff is my fun stuff, podcasting and fun consumable things like watching Netflix or all that kind of fun stuff. So
the fun stuff, is audio editing the most fun you have, like working on iPad? 'Cause for me, that's one of my favorite things about iPad is just Ferrite and that whole editing environment.
Ferrite is amazing. I don't know it nearly enough as I should. I've been using GarageBand, honestly. I mean, I think GarageBand actually is very good. I mean, I go between the Mac and the iPad to do the editing, and the GarageBand does have some really good tools that allows to edit it. As we started the show, I use Audio Hijack most of the time on my Mac to record shows. Then I'll bring it into GarageBand or Ferrite and go through and edit because I have the two tracks, myself and then the other person that was on the show. So yeah, that's probably a lot of the fun stuff I do with it. And then the editing, video editing, I'm trying to dabble into that a little more. LumaFusion is probably the most amazing of all video editors out there. I don't know it nearly as enough as I should. I've used iMovie before, editing video for podcasts because I do put some content up on YouTube as well. But it does work really well, and I've really tried to do it as more on my iPad than ever. But sometimes you get into a bind of the fact, I'm on the Mac. Let me just do it here.
Yeah. I'm patiently waiting for their multi-cam update to hit. I thought it was supposed to come out last year, but we're still waiting. So I'm sure any day now.
Yeah.
So in 2016, you gave a talk at MacStock 2016, back when the iPad Pro was a pretty new thing, and we were still living with the 9.7 and the original 12.9.
Right.
So those that was before ProMotion was a thing. True Tone was just new with that 9.7 inch. Like, how have things progressed in iPad land for you? Like, as a personal device, are you able to do more like email type work and like just general personal computer at home work than you did back then, or how does that look for you?
Oh yeah. I mean, email definitely is a good example. I use Outlook a lot for work. I mean, there are others, SparkMail and a lot of others that I've tried. The mail app for the most part tends to be good. I continue to try to do a lot of that kind of stuff. Even like I'm a big avid news reader, obviously for looking for news like News Plus. I have the Apple One bundle for all the services with Apple. So among all the other, I'm immersed here in all of my Apple devices here. So so it really has giving me opportunities of being able to look at those kind of things. There's also like for webcamming and video cam stuff, I use a program called Camo Studio that allows you to be able to turn your iPhone into a webcam, and I've been utilizing an iPhone for all this time as a webcam, and works really well because the Camo Studio can be the iPad could act as a camera as well if I really wanted to.
Could with that tool, could you use Centerstage with Camo to have Centerstage on your Mac, kind of?
I think Centerstage really was more centralized with FaceTime. I don't think
because I know like there are like Filmic Pro and other apps.
Right,
you're able to actually just capture Centerstage video in some apps that like enabled support for it. So I know it's like designed for FaceTime and Skype and that stuff, but I know some developers have been kind of clever with it.
Camo's really come a long ways, and it's one of my de facto. I ended up getting a lifetime subscription with them, and I use it every day that I'm on a podcast as well as my own. So I should try that. I have not tried the Centerstage because it's always just me.
Yeah. No, makes sense. And how do you configure either your iPad or iPhone? Do you like have a hover bar duo or some kind of like tripod thing? Or
I am using a product called Plexicam, and what that is it's a little piece of plexiglass arm. I actually interviewed these folks, and it's got a little bracket that it goes into it with a little slot on it, and I've got a specific mount for the iPhone, and it just hooks right onto my monitor. And as well as it can do the same thing. I guess could on an iPad it'd be kind of a little too big for it, but. It's a Plexicam, Plexicam. .com is their website. They're an upcoming company, and they definitely have come up with an ingenious way of forcing you to be able to look at the camera at eye level, because that's the thing, we're always looking up or down, whether it be on a laptop or even when you're using the FaceTime camera on your iPad, whereas this device can kind of force it with an external camera.
So
a little bit harder on the iPad, of course, because of its size. But.
So it positions the iPhone like center above the monitor, or is it coming in front of the monitor in some way?
Well, it's actually clipped onto my monitor right now, but it's because it's a clear plexiglass. It doesn't really bother me much as far as it being, because your webcam is going to be in front of you no matter what you do.
Right.
Well, I mean, or it's going to be, and most people do is these days is set it up on top of the monitor, and of course, like I said, it makes you look up. So this kind of forces me to look down. Well, of course, it also helps I have a 32-inch monitor sitting on my desk. So so I'm able to move it in such a way so I have the camera in one place of the screen, but if I'm looking at anything else that's on there, gives me the opportunity to be looking straight at it, and plus getting amazing.
I see. So it'll be like in front. It'll be clipped to the monitor, and the iPhone itself will be like in front, and kind of acts as like a window on your Mac almost. You just don't put windows there. It's like a little window on your Mac that's in front of you.
It's clear, yeah. I mean, other than you see the phone I'm looking at right now. Of course, we're not on camera, but the camera's positioned right at eye level. So when I'm looking at it, I'm looking right at the camera.
That's cool.
And it works with other webcams too. But this, I've been just so pleased using that. And I have a spare iPhone to kind of helps a little, but a 10R. But the camera, obviously, the camera quality on an iPhone is just spectacular compared to some of these Logitech webcams that are out there.
And you'll configure it with the rear camera.
Yeah, I use the rear camera. I have the rear camera facing. Yeah, the front camera wouldn't make sense. So I do the rear camera. Yeah.
These days, the front-facing iPhone camera is still better than the Macs, but yeah.
But, a lot of people are using, my friend Chuck Joyner, who does Mac Voices, and I'm on his show every week. He and I was with him at CES in 2020. Unfortunately, we didn't get to go this year because of the pandemic. So, but he uses an iPad Mini as a camera, basically a recording device on a tripod, and it really works out really well. And of course, now with the new the latest iPad Mini that's out has a much better camera, and a lot of people are starting to use that as a means of recording. And then plus they would, the good thing is they can have the screen looking right at them and the rear facing camera facing, the subject matter on a tripod, it held in a bracket so you can see, what you're recording too.
Right.
So you use that. But yeah, a lot of people are using iPads for that. And this Camo Studio would work perfectly with something like that.
Yeah, I remember I was at Macworld, I think it was 2011 or 12 or something, and I was using, it must have been 12 or 13 actually. I was using an iPod Touch rig with like a tripod thing and had power running to the iPod. And the problem I ran back in those days was trying to keep it powered all day. It would overheat.
Those extra batteries.
It would overheat.
Yeah, that's true.
Warnings there.
I don't think it's as bad as it was back in those days. Yeah, I agree.
No, not at all.
But people are carrying around extra battery packs and once the battery starts to wear, they just have this special battery pack that will actually mount, above the camera.
Oh yeah,
above the iPad, so that's there, and you just switch out batteries.
Yeah,
for all day rig.
So for show preparation for In Touch with iOS, do you use the iPad at all for gathering what you're going to talk about, and do you reference the iPad in your notes, or that's probably on the Mac since that's where your camera is?
I use my iPad for my notes. Because I do use Apple Notes, which is awesome. That keeps my notes every week. So I do refer back to that. But I always have it with me because I'm always going to talk about it at some point during my show. Because I'm iPad, iPhone, Apple Watch, Apple TV. So I got a lot to talk about here. So I'm always immersed in, especially the iPad, and there's just so much to talk about with it that gives us opportunities, and I do use it for notes. I probably use more of the Mac only because production wise, I find the Mac and Audio Hijack, and I'm also using Zoom as my source of when guests come on. I have guests on every week, so I do it that way. But always got to back up what we're doing right now. I'm backing up the recording for you as well as you're recording this show. So I do the same thing, and plus I stream live on YouTube. So when we do the show live, we're streaming on YouTube as well. So that I mean, it can be done on the iPad, but because I would want to use this as a camera, it's still a little tricky. I'd like it to be more of a primary device, but I could just tell you, I just on Saturday, as we record this, bought a 16-inch M1 Pro MacBook Pro. So I'm kind of, so I just did it. So it's tough not to lean back towards the Mac a little bit with my production.
Sure. Does Universal Control attract you at all? Like being able to drag like audio files from your Mac to the iPad and vice versa?
It does. I wish they would release it.
Right.
I mean, Sidecar was a cool thing that Apple came out with when and being able to use the iPad as a secondary secondary device. I also use that device Luna, the little adapter you could plug in, and I would use that as a way of being able to have as an external monitor. So it does come in handy, and that does come in handy too for those who have 12.9 inch iPad Pros, the newer ones. That making that a second monitor is pretty awesome, and not having to.
Yeah, you have dual XDR displays with your MacBook Pro you got there. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and then that's the thing. And when I would talk about the M1 iPad Pros that are out now, I had a 2018. I upgraded it I had a 2018. I didn't upgrade it to 2020, and then the 2021 M1 came out. I said, okay, I'll jump in and upgrade it. There probably wasn't a huge reasoning of upgrading from a 2018 iPad Pro to a 2021 M1, but
yeah, unless it's a good excuse for a better amount of storage, or if you're using the cellular 5G, I get better internet on my iPad than I do my home internet.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the XDR screen, if you go big, it's incredible. What they do.
But that was kind of my reasoning why I decided to stick with the 11 inch. I mean, the screen size doesn't bother me that much. I mean, I had the experience with the 12.9. But now there's some rumors that there might be even bigger screens coming in the future. We don't know when.
I love that. Let's have a desktop iPad. Let's do it.
15-inch maybe iPad Pro. That would be pretty hot, and I bet it'll be pretty expensive too.
I'm sure it would. Imagine what they could do with all that keyboard space and the Magic Keyboard. Have a fold-over pad or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh boy. And then I'd imagine with the 11-inch with sidecar, using the display in vertical orientation would be pretty appealing, or yeah.
I mean, I see that even in my office, I see people that are doing that with their monitors on their desk. I see more and more people are flipping their monitors to horizontal, so it's so up and down view on one monitor, because a lot of people have two monitors on their desk. So I could definitely see that as an advantage.
Yeah. So. As a leisure device, you've mentioned like Netflix and video. It's of course a great device for that, and I've been even impressed with the current iPad Pros. The speaker spatial audio, like surround sound from the 12.9 inch, is weird because it kind of works in bizarre ways. How have you been enjoying it as a leisure device?
I agree with you. I a lot of video watching, it really comes in handy there. I watch in live TV. I mean, I'm a Xfinity Comcast subscriber, so I would take it, instead of me having to go watch TV somewhere in front of my TV. I want to watch it at pinch. I mean, other than watching it on my iPhone 13 Pro Max, got a much bigger screen with the iPad, and being able to consume that is pretty awesome. And all the other services out there, Hulu, Netflix, Apple TV. I mean, they have some amazing content. Prime Video. There's just so much as far as the consuming of it. Internet wise, I think it's a really fine device for that as well. I'll subscribe to some different local. I have one local newspaper here. I've been subscribing to the Wall Street Journal. Sometimes I like to read through on that, but. You know what? One way to consume news more so than ever is News Plus. I think Apple's News Plus app has really evolved. I think it's really come a long way with it, and gives you some pretty amazing content with the magazines and newspapers and all the news that it covers. Even Apple Music, for that matter, consuming music on an iPad is a lot of fun. Being able to see your lyrics and being able to. And you can watch music videos, and so I mean that's what's so great about the iPad. It's just you just have so much you can use it to consume so many things.
Well, you mentioned you have that 16-inch MacBook Pro. I would highly recommend the Tragedy of Macbeth. It's black and white and just looks stunning on the XDR screen. I mentioned this on another podcast, but it's a 4:3 shot movie, so it's like the perfect iPad Pro. 12.9 black and white XDR 4:3. It's like made for iPad. It feels like almost.
I'll definitely have to check that out. Yeah.
Anything else regarding iPad that we haven't touched on that you'd like to?
No, I think again, I'll just keep reiterating the fact that it's just an amazing device. I don't think I'll ever go, as long as I live, without not having an iPad in my arsenal. I think it's a pretty amazing device, and Apple continues to do very well with it. I can't wait. I'm sitting here on the sidelines always and covering it and talking about it to see what Apple comes up with next, because I think there's going to be more exciting things in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I forgot to ask, Apple Pencil. Do you use that much?
Yeah, I do. I like the Apple Pencil. I am absolutely loving the new Quick Notes feature where you just drag up to the left on the bottom right corner and then having to be able to do a quick note. In Notes itself, it's just so powerful being able to circle things, be able to write out stuff. Even a lot of the note-taking apps. I use I do use OneNote for Microsoft for work, and it does have those capabilities that work really well. But there's so many other note-taking apps, like Notability and Drafts, and a lot of great note-taking apps that take full advantage of using the Apple Pencil. And sometimes I'll dabble a little bit into drawing and having some fun, coloring and drawing and getting to do that with the pencil because it's just different. I think adult coloring books are starting to become a thing lately, and of course people are doing that with regular markers, but they already have it on the iPad. So what do I need to have a physical book for? I can just be coloring. I don't do it that often.
Yeah, no, it's very cathartic. Like I'll open up like Procreate and just playing around with pressure sensitivity, making it feel like a fountain pen a little bit. That's just like a fun thing to do. Yeah.
So no, it is great. I probably don't use it as much as I should, but I do think it's a great extra tool. Some people don't want it, and that's fine. But I think it's worth the value for sure.
Yeah. What kind of iPad related topics do you cover on your podcast?
Anything in just basis going on with the product with the device, as well as any apps, tips, anything really that goes on with the iPad in itself. I mix it up with all the devices. Kind of a cross-reference, talking about beta a little bit. We always talk about beta every week, see what the next thing Apple's coming up with in the beta cycle. It's kind of fun. My co-host Warren he's a beta fanatic, and I also say he's a crazy person sometimes because he puts beta on like right away and doesn't wait on his production devices. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I have my old 12.9 I put it on, but that's going to be coming end of life here pretty soon. I'm reading rumor here now that 15 is going to be on the road for that one, which is so sad. I bought that, gosh,
iPad Air 2 is still supported today, so we'll see.
Yeah. No, I think that one might be near its end too. So, yeah. But no, I think that's really what we talk about is that an iPhone. I mean, you can't ignore iPhone, obviously, not as well as iPad from what I talk on my show, because there's. I mean, what I just talked the last news story I just talked about the other day is 72% people have iPhones at this point. As far as using iPhones out there, and iPads are becoming even more of a norm for tablet devices. I mean, I don't even hear people talking about Android tablets. Oof.
Yeah, for sure. The beta thing you mentioned. One of the betas recently this year, it hosed how OneBlocker did their privacy blocking firewall thing. And I had thought the OS itself was just not letting my internet work at all. So I downgraded and it was working again. Then, it finally got released and I updated maybe a week after release and it was still happening. It's like, and then I found out, there's a setting in OneBlocker that can just fix this. And it hadn't yet been the new default in the app, which it probably should have, since I'm sure I wasn't the only one that thought no internet on their iPad or iPhone. Yeah,
that tells you don't put beta on your production device.
Yes, it does. Yeah. Is Swift Playground something you guys are diving into? I'm not sure how developer you guys get.
Yeah, I haven't had too much in the developer end of things. We more or less cover beta only because there's public betas out there, and then with that disclaimer, as I just said, don't put it on your production device, and buyer beware. Don't install it if you don't feel comfortable with the beta software. But no, we really haven't dabbled too much. I am not a developer. I would not say it by any means. I'm trying to dabble a little bit in Swift Playground, so it is fun.
They make it look so easy on stage, and I always try. Yeah. It's not nearly as easy.
Exactly. So it's tough. It's tough to do that and have a comfort level with it. But also making time to do it too.
Yeah, it's funny the granular levels of geekdom. It's like, oh, you're in IT. That means you must know how to write code too, right?
No, not everybody.
Exactly. No.
No.
Well, where can people find In Touch with iOS?
So the website is intouchwithios.com. Again, I have my co-host Warren Sklar, who's been with me for a number of years now. I've been doing the show for about 6 years now. Gosh, can't believe 185 episodes here at this point as we record this. So you can go to that website. I do have a YouTube channel that we do as well. You can go to that YouTube channel at youtube.com/DaveG65. But you definitely go to our website and find the show, and we'd love to have everybody listen. And I appreciate you, Tim, for having me on the show, really, and hope we can talk again. Might have you on my show.
Absolutely, sounds good. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
Well, that was my discussion with David. Make sure to check out his podcast, In Touch with iOS. My thanks to him for his time recording this episode, and my thanks to you for your time and attention tuning in. You can support this podcast by subscribing to the podcast in Apple Podcasts, which grants you early access and bonus content, or by supporting the Patreon at patreon.com/iPadPros. But thanks to everyone that does support the podcast. Every dollar is greatly, greatly appreciated. With that, I'll talk to everyone again real soon. Thanks for listening.